Ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, friends from around the world connected to this hybrid event entitled Addressing Water for Peace, the Role of Capacity Building in Water Governance in Conflict and Humanitarian Settings, I have the privilege of welcoming you all on behalf of UNITAR, the United Nations Institute for Training and Research, and York University of Canada. We have an ambitious agenda to follow, so allow me without further ado to thank all of you connected and all of you in the room here at the Palais des Nations in Geneva, Switzerland, for the time that you are going to give us. And at the same time, allow me to sincerely thank the distinguished panelists in this presidium who will be taking the floor according to the agenda. We have a short presentation. I kindly ask my colleague Stephen Joy if he could help me with the next slide. My name is Alex Mejia. I am a director at UNITAR, and in the absence of our Director General, Assistant Secretary General Nikhil Seth, I'll be happy to be the chair of this meeting. Next, please. Let me jump right into it. And as a way of introduction and to set the tone of the conversation today, the most important thing that I can tell you is that as part of World Water Day, 22nd of March of every year since 1993, today we are here by tasks with one of the most pressing issues that the United Nations confront, which is water systems management. Transboundary water, water scarcity, and definitely today, just to name one of the pressing matters that we address, water for peace. With that graph that all of you are seeing on your computers and also here in the monitors, you will see that a map of global water scarcity will tell us that 2.3 million people do not have the right access to water. And if you put that using geo-information systems in a global map, as you can see from afar, you understand the magnitude of the crisis. Out of 8 billion of us in this planet, to have 2.3 million lacking access to water has several implications on social development, the perpetuation of poverty, discrimination, and indeed conflict. Next, please. This is another way to see, in a regrettable manner, that discrimination happens also around water. And I say with the most respect, and you all know that we at the United Nations remain neutral and apolitical, but the facts are the facts. What you see to the right tells you, in a nutshell, that if you live in a country that has a higher level of development, in a richer country, this is a non-issue for you. But if you live in the so-called global south, this is an emerging, demanding, critical issue for you. So the distribution of these 2.3 billion people, billion will be, it's unfortunately part of that global south. And you can see in the map, and this presentation indeed can be shared, that as the years progress, we are not seeing the advance that we had envisioned when the SDGs began in January 2016. On the contrary, today in the morning, in a most excellent event that WMO, the World Meteorological Organization, hosted here in Geneva, we heard several of the speakers talking about the trend on the usage of water and the access to water. And I was very shocked and very sad to hear that demand for water grows at 1% per year. And you're going to hear from the experts around the table why this is preoccupating. Next, please. The topic of this year for the World Water Day is Water for Peace, as I say. And in this map, you can see the geographic locations where major incidents of water-related violence have taken place since the year 2000. And the numbers grow, they do not decrease. But at the same time, I have promised several colleagues organizing events like ours that I will transmit exactly the same message that they are transmitting in Vienna, in Bonn, in New York, in Addis Ababa, and definitely in Geneva. So allow me to quote briefly. Water can create peace or spark conflict. When water is scarce or polluted, or when people have unique and unequal or no access, tensions can rise between communities and countries. More than 3 billion people worldwide depend on water that crosses national borders. However, only 24 countries out of 193 have cooperation agreements for all their shared water. As climate change impacts increase and populations grow, there is an urgent need within and between countries to unite around protecting and conserving our most precious resource. Public health and prosperity, food and energy systems, economic productivity, and environmental integrity all rely on a well-functional and equitable managed water cycle. So, again, the theme of World Water Day 2024 is water for peace. When we cooperate on water, we create a positive ripple effect, fostering harmony, generating prosperity, and building resilience to shared challenges. We must act upon the realization that water is not only a resource to be used and competed over, it is a human right, intrinsic to every aspect of life. This World Water Day, we all need to unite around water and use water for peace, laying the foundations of a more stable and prosperous tomorrow. With that, I would like now to offer the floor to the President of York University of Canada, Dr. Rhonda Lenton. But before that, I would like to share just a couple of comments to express our appreciation on behalf of UNITAR and the United Nations to York University and to you, President Lenton. What you're going to see after her remarks is a project in which we are inviting all of you to be part of, the Global Water Academy, a dedicated training platform to build capacity around issues of water. That platform is happening thanks, in great part, because of York University. And second, and last but not least, I also want to thank you indeed, Stephen. You see the picture there. I want to thank President Lenton for joining our Assistant Secretary General in New York exactly 1 year ago, on 22nd March 2023, to express publicly that commitment and to launch what would have been at the beginning the pilot year of this Global Water Academy. Today, as we complete the year, the first year, we will actually be launching that platform, which is at your service. And with that introduction, it is my great pleasure to announce Dr. Rhonda Lenton, the President of York University. Excellency.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mejia. Good afternoon, everyone. Bonjour, bonjour. This is my first time in Geneva, and I think it's very fitting to be here on World Water Day, sharing the ideas and insights on water for peace in a global city known as the capital of peace. You know, I'm going to talk a little bit about a few statistics, but then pick up on some themes that were mentioned. But as I was sitting here listening to the remarks, I was thinking about how hot I was because we went for a little tour around this huge complex. And when I don't drink enough water, I tend to get quite bad headaches. And it doesn't occur to me for a second to reach to the glass and know that I have very easy access to water. And when you hear these numbers about the billions of people who do not have access to drinking water, to clean, it really, when you bring that down to the individual families, children, it is really quite shocking. 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by water. And that's what makes all of this even that much more shocking. Of that water, only 3% is fresh water. And even less, 0.5% of that fresh water is available for use across our 7 continents. We already heard the numbers who don't have access to clean water and the implications of that in terms of human health, hygiene, food production, food security is dependent on water, healthy ecosystems, and so much more. While there are certainly many factors that are affecting access to safe and potable water, we know that water is a major factor in understanding inequality. When populations around the world do not have equitable access to clean water and water management, it threatens human health, it contributes to the resurgence of life-threatening diseases it deepens political divides, and it slows our progress in advancing equality. Conflict and war further fuel the humanitarian crises that are associated with water. The Gaza Strip, for example, with no streams or lakes, has limited access to clean water. Coastal aquifers are used to source water for cleaning and bathing, but 97% of the aquifer water is deemed by the World Health Organization as unsafe for human consumption. So about 90% of Gaza households purchase potable water from desalination plants in the region. The destruction of those plants has left about 70% of the population having to drink and use contaminated and salted water. Oops, sorry. And when we consider that there are currently at least 32 active conflicts occurring around the globe, one begins to understand the magnitude of the challenge for ensuring equitable and reliable water and the implications for well-being, for equity and peace. Water stress is unfortunately poised to worsen as the demand for water dramatically rises over the next 2 decades. 25 countries representing 1/4 of the global population live in water-stressed areas, including the Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa, and South Asia. People are without access to a reliable, clean water source to perform everyday activities that most of us simply take for granted, such as basic hygiene and sanitation, drinking, cooking, and often also lacking water to maintain domestic, agricultural, and industrial use, or even to produce electricity. It's estimated that up to 250 million people in Africa will be living in areas of high water stress by 2030. And I'm sure that everyone saw the March 21st headline that says, "Taps have run dry across South Africa's largest city in an unprecedented water crisis." These conditions result in the increasing displacement of people as conditions become so unlivable that they simply have to move. Water has been the source of much divide in the world, separating our borders. According to the National Intelligence Estimate on Water that was requested by Hillary Clinton and completed in the fall of 2011, water was also anticipated to be increasingly used as a weapon of war and a potential tool for terrorism. The Water Convention that we are here today contributing to must be an opportunity for something more than just describing the extent of the problem. At the panel this morning, they were talking about the importance of creating the opportunity to talk to one another, but we obviously can't stop there. We must identify and agree to collaborate on the most promising opportunities for how to address water scarcity and advance water management to drive positive change, to overcome social, economic, and political divides. And we must also not overlook the importance of sanitation with the water crisis. It is essential for managing public health, dignity, and well-being. The global gaps in sanitation are even greater than they are for water. Safe and reliable access to clean water, sanitation, water management, importantly, is all possible. But we cannot do this without vision and pragmatic leadership. 1 year ago, at the UN Water Conference in New York City, UNITAR, York University, and many other partners made a commitment to establish a first-of-a-kind global water academy. Led by York University Professor Sapna Sharma as its inaugural director, the academy brings together public and private sectors around the globe with the aim of delivering innovative training and building human capacities on pressing water-related issues. York University is a progressive international teaching and research institution, and it was chosen as the lead institution, academic institution, in recognition of our significant strength in water research, combined with our commitment to advancing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which is firmly entrenched in our academic plan. Every day, our diverse and welcoming community is working to advance the SDGs, including SDG 6, clean water and sanitation. Our focus is on capacity building solutions that improve access to safe water. I'll just give you a couple of examples. Our researchers are developing new tools that make water safer and sustainable by detecting microplastics in drinking water. We're using AI to optimize water treatment and ensure that water is safe to drink, which is especially crucial in refugee camps where water infrastructure is most often limited or absent. These same researchers are working with OCHA, MSF, the IFR, CRC, and others to develop new water management guidelines for children's therapeutic feeding centers in situations of famine. These safe water optimization tools are operationally pragmatic tools for use in refugee camps and IDP settings, and through use enhance real-time, on-the-ground governance among field actors, multilateral humanitarian actors, and local and regional governments. Some of the key takeaways from that conference were also cited in the World Water Development Report, that progress for SDG 6 is not only lagging, but that in order for world governments to reach their targets by 2030, we will all need to work 4 times faster. It is widely agreed that the only way forward is to building capacity and expanding partnerships, such as the UNITAR Global Water Academy. It has never been more important that we support and nurture programs such as this academy so that we can address the critical gaps in water knowledge, raise awareness through training and educational opportunities, and bringing together diverse perspectives, experiences, and ideas. With a commitment to collaborate and share solutions, water can be a vehicle for enhancing equality, health, and well-being, for building peace, and for protecting our planet, which is our only home. Thank you so much. Merci, French.
Thank you very much, President Lenton. Now, this event has a focus on capacity building, but it will also be a holistic conversation on water governance, and we will get there. But allow me to actually present to you, if you can, Stephen, the mission of this platform that President Lenton has just mentioned, the Global Water Academy training platform that you are invited to visit. As of today, it is live, actually as of last night, midnight. So the mission statement, thank you, says as follows, and you are looking at the actual platform. Thank you. To empower learners all over the world with the knowledge and skills to respond to the global water sustainability crisis by providing hybrid training and online courses developed by global leaders in water research, resource management, and policy development, at the same time as developing scientific and two-eyed water solutions to water sustainability, and by building the capacity and international partnerships necessary to achieve the objectives of UN Sustainable Development Goal 6. And the flagship course that we go to the presentation, please, that we will give you, most of you experts in the room will remember by heart not only all the SDGs but the targets under every SDG. Under SDG 6, you have several targets, including one SDG 6.6 that has 2 literals, A and B. So we are going to have in this course that you are all invited to take the same approach. Go to the next one, please. The modules of this course right there. If you read them, and those of you connected from afar, very many of you, I kindly invite you to compare SDG 6, the targets under the SDG 6, and exactly what you have on the screen. So hopefully we will be offering you several modules that are going to recite fastly. That makes sense because it addresses each one of the targets that build up so this goal can be achieved by the year 2030. 6.1, ensuring universal access to safe drinking water. 6.2, equitable sanitation and hygiene. 6.3, water quality and pollution. 6.4, water use efficiency and scarcity reduction. 6.5, integrated water resources management. 6.6, ecosystem protection and restoration. 6A, international cooperation and capacity building. 6B, community engagement and local empowerment. And something new, because this is not definitely one of the targets, but in the spirit of SDG 6, this has to be covered. We are going to add a module on the private sector integrating ESG principles for sustainable water management. That's it. You have been invited to take this course, to visit the Global Water Academy. We will announce you when registration for the course are ready, but we are very pleased that when discussing the role of capacity building in water governance, we can show you something tangible. With that, there is a short video that we would like to show you, and then I will offer the floor to our first speaker.
Excellencies, esteemed panelists and guests, it is my great pleasure to welcome you here today for UNITAR's side event organized under the auspices of World Water Day, entitled The Role of Capacity Building in Water Governance in Conflict and Humanitarian Settings. As we convene on this World Water Day, it is crucial to recognize the intrinsic link between water, conflict, and environmental degradation. Today, as we delve into the multilateral and environmental drivers exacerbating water insecurity while also proposing capacity building solutions to enhance water governance, particularly for the most marginalized communities. Water scarcity and pollution are not mere environmental issues. They are potent catalysts for conflict. Inequitable access to safe drinking water is exacerbated within a rapidly changing climate, where potable water sources become scarcer. Moreover, during times of crisis, such as conflicts and disasters, tensions escalate, and vulnerable populations, especially women and girls, face heightened threats due to lack of access to clean water and sanitation. However, amid these difficulties lies a chance for progress before we plunge further into the deep end. By prioritizing safe access to clean water in post-disaster communities, we can not only restore critical infrastructure, but also lay the foundation for peace and sustainable development. Transdisciplinary collaboration is imperative in creating a sustainable future water governance mechanism and in fostering policies that enhance water diplomacy, climate resilience, and transboundary cooperation. Today's celebration of the inauguration of UNITAR's Global Water Academy platform underscores the significance of capacity building in addressing water-related challenges. As we mark our one-year anniversary of the Global Water Academy, we aim to engage wider stakeholders and promote dialogue on leveraging water for peace to pave the way for a more equitable and sustainable future. Through initiatives like the UNITAR's Global Water Academy, our goal is to empower individuals and institutions with the knowledge and skills to effect positive change in what is called the blue economy. As we commemorate the theme of World Water Day 2024, Water for Peace, let us heed the key messages echoed by His Excellency Secretary General Antonio Guterres that water has historically proven to be a catalyst for cooperation, not for conflict. It is indispensable for prosperity and peace, requiring nations to prioritize water cooperation in their policies. In times of crisis, water should serve to unite communities and nations through fair and sustainable water management practices, where we can all find a balance between drinking in excess or having a drop from the draining well. In that spirit, I invite you all to register to become a UGWA member at globalwateracademy.org or follow your QR codes in the booklet handout to check out our new platform. By working together across borders and disciplines, we can ensure safe access to clean water for all, mitigate conflicts, and build a more resilient and harmonious world where the rivers we share over transboundary lines build a bridge towards our common values to live sustainability and thrive. Thank you.
We thank Mr. Steph, and we invite you to point your cameras to that QR code so you can learn a little more about this. Now, with these remarks of inauguration and welcoming you and announcing the Global Water Academy, now we will proceed to the panel discussion on peace and prosperity in water management. To begin this part of the agenda, it is my great privilege to offer the floor to His Excellency Ambassador Walid Khalid Obeidat, the permanent representative of Jordan to the United Nations office in Geneva. Excellency, welcome.
Yes, thank you, Alex. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all of you, and Ramadan Kareem and Mubarak for those who are fasting. I would like to start with a verse from the Quran that says, out of water we have made every living thing. So water is not only necessary as a matter for economies, as a matter for cooperation, as a matter of peace. It is essential for life itself. Without it, we would not have any life, and without this life, we wouldn't be here talking about it anyways. So, and with your permission, since I'm not an expert on water issues, I would just talk with the general sense of it. Straight to the point, Jordan is facing several challenges when it comes to water. We have population growth, growing from 3.6 million in 1990 to 11 million in 2021, projected to be 17 million in 2040. We have agricultural expansion. We have limited water resources availability. We are one of the most water scarce countries in the world. We have declining exploitability because of drought and climate change. And we have, of course, transboundary water challenges that are omnipresent in the Middle East, most notably nowadays as well. Jordan recognizes the importance of the right to water as a fundamental element for the stability, resilience, economic recovery, and development of countries in the region, and that water-related issues can have a critical impact on the promotion of peace. It also recognizes that transboundary water cooperation can promote sustainable development and regional integration and act as a catalyst for building peace. Effective water management at the national level requires cooperation across all institutions, and at a regional level requires cooperation across national boundaries. It is important to recognize that failure to cooperate on transboundary water has the potential to be a source of conflict and to deepen differences between communities that are unable to share water resources peacefully. We could see many signs that would be leading the region to an uneventful, unwanted direction. For Jordan, for decades, Jordan has actively promoted comprehensive water management to improve livelihoods, resilience, and economic development. Nevertheless, despite its efforts, Jordan continues to face significant water stress, making it one of the most water-stressed countries in the world. The per capita use of water in Jordan is 61 cubic meter, far below the 500 cubic meter per capita used worldwide. Water scarcity in the region has been worsened by a combination of factors, including climate change, as I've mentioned, reduced rainfall, and drought. Additionally, the instability in neighboring countries has resulted in an influx of refugees. Jordan has been receiving refugees for the past 60 years of its existence. We have received recently, that means recently the past 15 years, 1.3 million Syrians fleeing the Syrian conflict. They total about 17% of the current Jordanian population. So you can imagine how that greater percentage would affect national plans across the board, including on water. This has posed a major challenge to decision makers and put a significant strain on already limited financial resources and budgets, including those allocated for the provision of water resources. Moreover, Jordan continues to face challenges in complying with the terms of regional water agreements. As a result of these circumstances, decision makers have acknowledged the pressing need for a national water strategy to analyze the existing situation and provide results that would contribute to the search for alternative water resources in the face of demographic changes, rapid population growth, as I have mentioned, the effect of climate change, and continued reliance on shared water with neighboring countries. This national water strategy covered the period from 2023 to 2040. that has been developed to address the challenges above mentioned. The strategy also highlights the measures Jordan is implementing to address these obstacles, which include exploring alternative solutions such as the national water option, as we call it, which aims to purify or desalinate Red Sea water to provide water to all regions of the country. That's a very costly, large project. It's an international project, and of course it's a very costly project. And on this we would be relying on cooperation with the international community at large, and we would be counting on the newly established academy to build our capacity building in this regard. It is important to strengthen systematic efforts aimed at achieving regional cooperation and coordination. It is acknowledged that strengthening regional cooperation on shared water resources is crucial to safeguard Jordan's water rights and improve water security, thereby ensuring that Jordan has sufficient water resources. To achieve this objective, it is essential to maintain cooperation with neighboring countries. We have no doubt it is through cooperation that all goals will be achieved, be them national, regional, or international. Conflict is a very bad idea to deal with any problem that we're facing, most notably when we're dealing with water. We're seeing elements of that in Gaza nowadays, unfortunately. In this regard, whenever a deal is reached, all parties are expected to respect their commitments. Of course, as I mentioned, it is also important to acknowledge that addressing the water major challenges requires the support of the international community in providing the necessary financial resources and technological assistance. I would like to finish by our outlook from our national water strategy, where we say, there are many the need to address critical cross-cutting issues when it pertains to water, which include financial performance and sustainability, data-driven decision-making, innovation and technology, as you have mentioned, on artificial intelligence and the use of it, energy use, because we always, in our part of the world, water and energy are interlinked. And we cannot mention water without energy. And both of them can be conducive to a very peaceful future. Water use efficiency and, of course, climate change. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you for your leadership on any issue related to human development and sustainability, and particularly thank you for being a good friend of UNITAR throughout the years. And we will be very pleased to provide services and provide support to your member state, as mentioned. Thank you indeed. Now, to continue with the proceedings, it is a pleasure to offer the floor to Mr. Bruce Gordon, the Vice Chair of UGWA and a colleague of ours. Dear Bruce, welcome.
Thank you so much. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's a real pleasure to be here. And I want to thank, first of all, UNITAR and York University for hosting today's event. And I'd like to say on behalf of UN Water that we're delighted to celebrate the first anniversary of UNITAR's Global Water Academy. And thanks, Mr. Mejia, for bringing attention to the means of implementation indicators, or the targets 6A and 6B within SDG 6, because we have to take efforts to get there. In my role as Vice Chair of UN Water, I'd like to focus my intervention today on this year's theme of World Water Day and for the UN World Water Development Report. And I'd like to give you some examples of successful international cooperation on water, because a lot of the themes are sad today with the conflict in water, but there's reason. I think we should always try to be optimistic. But of course, when we chose the theme, when UN Water chose the theme, leveraging water for peace for this 2024 campaign a few years ago, we didn't know it would be so timely. sadly. So we meet today against a backdrop of turmoil, as there's been some allusions to. We know that major wars are raging, climate change is worsening, and there's unprecedented displacement and migration of people, as you've alluded to, Ambassador. So on every continent, water pollution, scarcity, and unpredictability are increasing. And we heard about the folks, 2.2 billion living without safe water. You mentioned, President Hunton, the importance of sanitation, which is often the root cause of poor water quality. 3.5 billion people don't have access to safely managed sanitation. The effect on public health is profound. Unsafe water and sanitation and hygiene are responsible for the deaths of around 1,000 children every day under 5. I also work at the World Health Organization, and the global resurgence of cholera there is a major concern. It's been declared a grade 3 emergency, the highest level of alerts. And I can tell you even this week there's been a call for not only oral cholera vaccines, but massive investment in water and sanitation, which is the required solution for cholera. So the water and sanitation situation in this era of polycrisis is a threat to global peace and prosperity. In this World Water Day, the campaign on Water for Peace, led by UNESCO and UNECE and coordinated by UN Water, is about raising awareness that water has the potential to create peace or spark conflict, depending on our stewardship. So the aim is to inspire action from policymakers to the general public. Today in Paris, the UN World Water Development Report on Water for Prosperity and Peace was launched. It gave recommendations to decision makers. And just last night on the banks here of Lake Geneva, we were fortunate enough to see a community event, the H2O exhibition, and that is capturing the media attention and sparked the popular imagination. I'd encourage all of you, if you have a moment, to take a tour of that, especially at night. I think there's lights, and they will lead you through the history of water all the way through its formation from outer space. In a new agenda for peace, the UN Secretary General sets out his vision for overcoming divisions and building trust and solidarity, and that vision demands that we find universal issues and unite around them. And water is one such issue. From climate change to gender equality, from food security to public health, water is that common thread. And this presents us with an opportunity. We must cooperate on water and use it as a tool for stability and progress. And transboundary cooperation will be key. And some of the statistics are that more than 3 billion people worldwide depend on water that crosses our national borders. And yet, of the 153 countries that share rivers, lakes, and aquifers with their neighbors, only 24 of these countries report having cooperation agreements for all their shared water. So we have a lot of work to do ahead of us, but there's reason for hope. The United Nations Water Convention has led to more than 100 bilateral and basin agreements for water cooperation in the past 30 years. And indeed, over time, there have been many incidences of international cooperation over water rather than conflict. So one striking example of this is in the Sava River Basin in the Western Balkans region of Europe. And this agreement was the first intergovernmental agreement after the wars in the former Yugoslavia. And the creation of the Sava Commission not only served as a unifying factor for the 4 riparian countries, but also initiated trust and cooperation in the region. In West Africa in the 1970s, heads of state decided to jointly address the severe drought by creating shared dams and the Senegal Basin Development Organization. The Indus Water Treaty, signed in 1960 between India and Pakistan, is a positive example of long-standing collaboration in a region that has frequently seen tensions and even conflict. And just last night at this event that I alluded to, we heard France and Switzerland talk about an agreement in 1963 to protect Lake Léman, so the Lake Geneva right here, that has allowed it to now be swimmable and clean. So this is an example of what happens over years that has touched us today. Effective transboundary water cooperation acts as a powerful tool for conflict prevention and peace building by building trust between water users, communities, and countries sharing water resources. The threats we face pay no attention to borders or sectors. so our approach to water must be international and cross-sectoral. Ladies and gentlemen, it's no exaggeration to say that our collective management of water over the coming decades could be the difference between life and death for human civilization. The logic of competition makes no sense when applied to water. This is the path to disease, disaster, and destitution, and on an epic scale. There's an urgent need for countries to unite around water, to build resilience, to help us mitigate and adapt to climate change, meet human demand, and to protect ecosystems we rely on for our survival. The UNITAR Global Water Academy has an important role to play. The professionals trained here will make a vital contribution to sustainable and collaborative water management efforts. Thank you for organizing this event and for your ongoing work in this field.
Thanks to you, Mr. Gordon. We very much welcome your support and your involvement. Now, allow me to continue with the proceedings and offer the floor to Mr. Alan Atkinson, Executive Secretary of Global Water Partnership. The floor is yours. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First, let me offer my warmest congratulations to you, Alex and Rhonda, UNITAR, and York University in Toronto, Canada. Canada always a leader in these issues. For launching and making on what I'm sure was a stressful deadline to actually get your website up and running yesterday evening for this event. And we at Global Water Partnership, of course, are looking very much forward to collaborating with you and looking for opportunities for collaboration. I also want to extend my thanks to Ambassador Bidat from Jordan. If you don't know the Global Water Partnership, we are an intergovernmental organization, and Jordan is one of our founding countries, and we are very grateful for that and for the role that you play in our organization. And of course, we hope that we can continue to play a role in supporting your work in the challenging situation that you just described for us. I do have a presentation. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly. Our topic here on the role of capacity building, in some ways that needs no introduction in terms of why it's important to do it. What I thought I would underscore just as an opening before I run through these slides is maybe the underrepresented notion of capacity building as diplomacy, capacity building as relationship building, capacity building as a reason to convene, even in situations where people may be bickering around other topics. I've certainly been personally part of a number of water-related training programs where the countries involved didn't usually often meet, but in a training context, they could. So let's not forget that when we're talking about water for peace and talking about capacity building, we're talking about something more, and I don't mean to use the word just here, but it's not only learning and not only building our ability to tackle problems, it's also building our relationships. So I again applaud UNITAR and for their vision in that regard. So again, Global Water Partnership, we've been around since 2002, formally launched in the middle 90s. And if I could get to the next slide, I'll note that the issues that we're working on, the issues that we're talking about today, they are not new. I just visited the Geneva Water Hub this morning, which is responsible for following up on this particular report, A Matter of Survival from 2017, a high-level panel, looking at water and peace issues. And in this presentation, I've marked in red the issues that I thought might be useful for us to think about today. Transboundary water cooperation is a tool that should be used more fully. That was said, what is it now, 7, 8 years ago. It is still extremely relevant today. You have it in your hands. Exactly. Yeah, well, no, it's these kinds of, we've done the thinking, I think, you might say, as a world, so now it's about doing the doing. Next slide, please. And in that report, of course, there's a documentation of the benefits of transboundary water cooperation. Lots of bullet points. I've marked and read the peace and security benefits. Turning tensions into opportunities for collaboration. Increased geopolitical stability. Strengthened diplomatic relations. New opportunity from increased trust. Reduced risk and avoided cost of conflict. Shared base and identity. In my own work, I've certainly seen that happening in my talks as a new, by the way, executive secretary, just 6 weeks on the job in my organization. I keep hearing this from the chairs of our regional organizations that collaborating on water is the thing that you can keep doing when you're having a lot of other trouble. And so this underscores the need for continuing in this regard. Next slide, please. Just to pick one example from the portfolio of processes that we at UGWP have been involved in. Here is the Senegal River Basin Development Organization process, OMBS en français, established as a regional cooperative management body around the Senegal River, Guinea, Mali, Mauritania, Senegal, all sharing the benefits of common water installations. But look at the last point. During times of crisis, the framework continued and acted as arbitration framework between Senegal and Mauritania, contributing to water and peace. That's historic. I've heard an update on that particular point as recently as 2 weeks ago from our colleagues in the region. I heard an update on that as recently as this morning at the previous event around the Mono River in Western Africa. So when we say these things, these are not abstract points when it comes to water, peace, collaboration. Next slide, please. We've seen data on this already. This is a different indicator than we've been talking about. Our 652 proportional transboundary basin areas with operational arrangements for water cooperation. I think we can see the inequities present in a picture like that rather instantaneously. Not only that, but also which countries don't even choose to find it important enough to provide the data on something like that. That tells the story as well. Next slide, please. And then I wanted to say something about us, the Global Water Partnership. I mentioned we're an intergovernmental organization founded by 8 countries, visionary countries, I should say, plus the WMO, which we signed a renewal of our strategic partnership with just this morning, myself and the Secretary General, Celeste Saulo. Around that core of an IGO, intergovernmental organization, we have a network of 13 regional water partnerships and over 65, it's hard to count because they come and go, but country water partnerships, and then some thousands of organizations that have also signed up to the principles of integrated water resource management and apply themselves to the problems that we're talking about. So that unique platform of having both an intergovernmental entity and a very active group of NGOs, institutes, private sector actors, you name it. You can see the little circle in the top corner there. That's all the different kinds of institutions that are part of our organization. Provides us with boots on the ground to make the ideas of water resource management come to life. Next slide, please. And here's an example from Southeastern Europe, where our colleagues in that region have been facilitating intergovernmental, and it's often interesting, as we all know, that the actors that get involved in these processes who have links to government when they're not government or they're in government, but in any case, they lead to governmental agreements that create a more stable action basis for peace. And there are a number of cooperation agreements that have resulted from just getting people together in a structured way to talk for a long period of time with a lot of capacity to develop. Next slide, please. One specific example here, the Drin Basin, and you can see the outcomes there, the development of a strategic action program. What you don't see in a slide like this, of course, is the delicacy of the process that was involved in bringing these countries together in a time when they were actively arguing about other intergovernmental and geopolitical questions. But that program was established, it's working, and transboundary cooperation is happening, creating a more stable platform for the region generally, I would argue. Next slide, please. This is also, by the way, a screenshot, so this is really fresh. It was a screenshot from my phone when I was getting briefings as the new ES. It's from your country. And it's an example of what happens when we do the kinds of capacity development that actually lead to moving money, which leads to hiring engineers, which leads to building something that is using nature-based solutions. You see the solar panels, you see tree planting, and this is wastewater treatment programming, a plant in Jordan that I hope will be of some use to you. This was colleagues in the Mediterranean region of Global Water Partnership Organization working with local actors in a stakeholder grounded process. So it's not just talk. I like to say talk isn't cheap, and you have to pay for the talk to get to the point where you can then make the investment that results in something like this. Next slide, please. I just wanted to close by issuing an invitation in the spirit of partnership. We applaud and laud cheer the launch of the Unitar and York Global Water Academy. Our resources are available to you in that academy. This is an open source, incredibly buzzy platform, the IWRM Action Hub that GWP has been managing for a decade, I'm guessing, something in that order of magnitude. We also have communities of practice that might be useful for you to take a look at. And those, again, they're moderated platforms, and we all know that sometimes these websites, they live and die very quickly. This one's quite alive and a lot of resources, and we hope that we can find partnership prospects with Unitar. Thanks so much for the time, Mr. Chair.
Thanks to you, Mr. Atkinson, and indeed, it will be a pleasure to cooperate with the Procedures Organization. Continue with the proceedings on the agenda. I have the pleasure of offering the floor to Dr. Sangam Sharesta, the Dean of the School of Engineering and Technology at the Global Water Sanitation Center at the Asian Institute of Technology. Welcome, Dr. Shrestha. Can you hear us? Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. Good evening, everyone from AIT Bangkok. It's my pleasure to be one of the panelists of this panel discussion. Thank you very much for your invitation, and I would like to extend congratulations for first year anniversary of the Unitar's Global Water Academy, and also the inviting this for the panel discussion to York University and other partners of this Unitar's Global Water Academy. Actually, AIT is located in Thailand, and we have a legacy of at least 60 years offering several water-related academic degree programs, conducting several research and outreach related activities related to water in this region and also beyond this region. So we are implementing several projects related to water, funded by several donor agencies, and then most of these projects are related to understanding the climate change and also the human activity impact on the water resources, formulating the solutions to mitigate the climate change impact and also the human activity impact on the water resources. And most of the projects, we try to incorporate the water governance aspect. What is the current state of the water governance and how to improve the water governance for the improving the water security in the selected project area. So we have conducted several projects related to water governance, and I want to share my some of the findings of the project that we recently conducted related to groundwater governance in the Lower Mekong region. And this project is funded by Stockholm Environment Institute, and we have co-designed this project with several government stakeholders, especially the government agencies who are responsible for the development and management of the groundwater resources. And this project is strengthening groundwater governance in rapidly urbanizing area of the Lower Mekong region. And the main objective of this project was to assess the current state of the groundwater governance and improve the groundwater governance based on the evidence-based understanding of groundwater availability, its use, and potential conflict under multiple stresses such as climate change, rapid urbanization, and also the demographic change. So we have selected 4 countries, and in the 4 countries, we have selected 4 rapidly urbanizing area. Vientiane in Lao PTR, Khon Kaen in Thailand, Siem Reap in Cambodia, and Kanto City in Vietnam. So we consider these cities are rapidly urbanizing area, and the groundwater use may be increasing in the future. And because of the increase in the groundwater extraction, we foresee that there is a potential conflict among the several users of the groundwater resources. So that's why we have selected these 4 cities as a case study area, and we implemented the framework of groundwater governance. So in fact, we have developed the framework of the groundwater governance to assess the current state of the groundwater governance, and then we implemented this groundwater governance framework in these rapidly urbanizing areas to assess the current state of the groundwater governance. So we have 4 dimensions to assess the groundwater governance in these rapidly urbanizing areas. They are namely the technical dimension, legal and institutional dimension, cross-sectoral policy coordination, and operational dimension. So we have at least 30 indicators under these 4 dimensions, and 9 of these indicators are directly related to the indicators such as vulnerable and marginalized group inclusion, gender responsive policy, gender inclusive policy, customary right, international human right charter, transboundary cooperation, and also the transparency services. So we use this groundwater governance framework to develop the groundwater governance index, and this groundwater governance index was calculated by using this the 30 indicators score, and this score ranges from 1 to 3. So the score, 0 to 3, and the 0 means there is non-existence of the groundwater governance. 0 to 1 means there is incipient state of the groundwater governance. 1 to 2 is acceptable state of groundwater governance, and 2 to 3 is the optimal state of the groundwater governance. So in this groundwater governance index, we calculated based on the score of 30 indicators by using some formula, which is of course multiplication of the weightage to each of the indicator and the value of the indicator. And those value of the indicator we have obtained through the expert consultation and also the consultation with the policymaker of the different governmental agencies that we have considered in the project. So in all of this rapidly urbanizing area, the technical dimension, the legal and institutional, and also the cross-sectoral policy coordination, they are somehow between the range of the incipient and the acceptable state of the groundwater governance. But one of the important findings of our the research is that most of the indicators related to the vulnerability and marginalized group inclusion, they are either at the non-existent state or incipient state. So it means that although the rapidly urbanizing areas of these 4 countries, they have incipient state to acceptable state of the groundwater governance, most of the indicators which are related to these vulnerable and marginalized groups, gender responsive policies, international human right charter, transboundary cooperation, they are very low score. They range between 0 to 1, so we can say that either they are non-existent state or a very incipient state. So we concluded that based on our findings, most of the legal and institutional provisions in these countries, especially in these rapidly urbanizing areas, these capacity building and also the inclusion of these indicator related to the vulnerable and marginalized groups need to be strengthened. So we have also conducted the policy advocacy workshop, inviting all of these governmental agencies, especially the Department of the Groundwater Resources under the Ministry of Environment and Natural Resources, and they have also agreed that probably these policy and the legal institutional framework should be strengthened to address the some of the groundwater related problems, and that can reduce the potential conflict in the rapidly urbanizing areas of these lower Mekong region. So with this, I would like to end my brief talk here. So I would be very happy to provide more information of this project in the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
Thanks to you, Dr. Fresta, and thanks to the Asian Institute of Technology, a close partner and ally of UNITAR as well. We will continue with the agenda, and I would like to offer the floor now to Dr. Rumina Dalla. Dr. Dalla is the director of the Institute for Sustainable Commerce. He's an associate professor for Organization Studies and Sustainable Commerce at the University of Guelph, and is also a special advisor at UNITAR. Dr. Dalla, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mejia and President Lenton, for inviting me to participate on this panel with these impressive speakers. I'm a business professor in my day job, and much of my work is around corporate responsibility and sustainability. And as we've heard from the speakers today about the scarcity of water and the large part of humanity that still does not have access to clean water. Water is a human right, and global access to clean water and sanitation is a basic need that goes unheeded for so many. The UN Sustainable Development Goal 6 is all about clean water and sanitation for all. It is without doubt that there is a need for collaboration across nations, boundaries, governments, civil society, and private sector to help address the critical challenges related to water scarcity. A number of corporations have recognized this need and are trying to participate in creating solutions for this critical challenge. However, sustainable solutions to access to water in complex environments require more than just corporate intent. I want to speak briefly about the importance of systems thinking and planning for unintended consequences through an example of corporate responsibility and the unintended consequences of strong and well-intentioned CSR action and the need for collaboration and a systems approach. This example is about an oil and gas exploration company exploring in a very high conflict region. I learned about this company as part of a research project on CSR in complex environments and fragile states. So this oil and gas exploration company had a strong and authentic CSR approach. Their exploration project required exploration in very rough terrain. Their project was in a region that had a fragile infrastructure, and there is significant and ongoing conflict in the area, and much of the local community is living on subsistence agriculture. The area experiences extreme temperature range, very low annual rainfall, and a mountainous and inhospitable terrain. There was at the time limited or no infrastructure for consistent and safe water supply. So this company decided to build water wells using exploration equipment and using their expertise and technology to add value. Their strategy consisted included drilling shallow water wells and repair existing wells, construct sumps and pits and build water supply pipelines, and provide water and sanitation facilities for local schools. The plan looked viable, and they worked with local communities and identified locations that had a strong need. Thus, with good intentions, good CSR strategy, and results focused on results that meet the needs of the local community, they began. Sounds great, right? It was, however, there are unintended consequences. For example, digging wells required transportation of drilling equipment, which opened roads, which opened up access to previously inaccessible terrains for potential criminal activities such as drug trafficking, and thus potentially creating more risk for those in need. Others have also identified social issues, for example, an uneven distribution to households or potential diversion of water supplies as a potential outcome. So the learning in this is, while we may do all our homework and have the best of intentions, we must find ways to identify potential unintended consequences which are not in the company's control and can create complex challenges. One way to alleviate some of these outcomes are with working with organizations such as UNITAR in the planning and execution of these strategies. We all agree on the importance of multi-stakeholder, multinational collaborations, because without this kind of inclusive collaboration, we may miss some of the unintended consequences of good intentions. I have another example that highlights the importance of multi-stakeholder collaborations and the needs for systems thinking. One of the projects I was leading in my university, the University of Guelph, is Gulf East Africa Initiative, a multinational, multi-stakeholder collaboration initiative to address critical challenges in the region. I learned about an initiative in Tanzania related to small-scale mining, which highlights for me the importance of systems thinking when trying to address critical challenges. This is directly related to the World Water Day message on the need for cooperation on water. We can balance everyone's water needs and help stabilize the world. So some mining processes, as some of you are familiar, result in toxic metals and chemicals such as arsenic and mercury from mining processes flowing into the water used downstream by smallholder farmers and other community members. At the same time, there are numerous committed NGOs and other institutions such as researchers working with smallholder farms on irrigation to help improve crop productivity and resilience. Unfortunately, the water has been contaminated, resulting in exposure to these harmful elements. So we need to work not only with geologists and miners, but also water engineers and farmers and civil society and possibly healthcare providers. However, we mostly operate in silos, nations, boundaries, organizations, and disciplines. The UNITAR Global World Academy could provide excellent knowledge in forming effective collaborations to help to globally deliver on SDG 6 and the related targets. What we are increasingly seeing in business strategy is the growing need for system thinking and collaboration in trying to address societal challenges for access to clean water that is critical for survival. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this panel.
Thank you, Dr. Dalla, and thank you for making it all the way here to share this very practical example. Now, I would like to offer the floor to Dr. Shipan Katalin, a strategic advisor at the Institute for Environmental Sustainability at the Ludovica University of Public Service, in Hungary. Dr. Katalin, we are listening. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, excellencies. Sorry I can't be with you in person, but it's still a privilege to be invited to be this panel. Congratulations and thanks for UNITAR and the York University to inviting us to take part of this panel. As I was told, I'm representing the Environmental Institute of the Ludovica University of Hungary, but I'm also representing the Faculty of Water Sciences, and who is the part of the Global Water Academy. When we were preparing, we were asked by the organizers to think about the multilateral and environmental drivers that amplify the water insecurity. So when I saw this introduction, I asked my colleagues to prepare a short and quick mind map. How do we see and how we would address, especially from the terms of capacity building, from the point of view of the capacity building. Let me share just some of them. The first was the geopolitical rivalrization, the insufficient level of integrated water management and governance, missing knowledge and skills for it, fragmented water sectors in country, but we can just think that probably in the UN we have 32 different organizations who are dealing with water. Hopefully the new strategy will help to coordinate this work. Lack of cooperation in country, transboundary and catchment area with, or between and across sectors, sometimes in country or in regions. Lack of sufficient data and forecasting ability, not connected water and climate data and analyzing system, short-term decision-making focus, low level of thinking in and understanding systems behavior, and the system analysis. I just can echo what I heard previously, that the system thinking is very crucial. So, In terms of the focus of the capacity building, I totally agree with one of the chapter titles. The report was already mentioned by Mr. Alan Atkinson, The Matter of Survival. And one of the titles is that an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. So this approach leads the capacity building focus of our university, and we should empower good water governance to prevent conflicts or navigate well from the time the conflict occurs, not to escalate to the armed conflict. So let me present what we are doing here at the Ludovica University. First of all, I would like to mention the Masters of Administration program on international water governance and water diplomacy. The curriculum is based on the scientific consensus that the root of the conflict lies mainly not the limited availability of water, rather how laws, policies, and financial decisions on water are made, implemented, and monitored by the government and the society. So this is a 2 years long course, practice-oriented, with up-to-date knowledge, and we are offering it for future water managers, diplomats, and national and international civil servants. And it's engaged in transboundary and global environmental issues. Just let me focus on some of the main clusters of the course. One is about the general issues of water management, and this is provide an introduction to the scientific and technical fundamentals of water governance, hydrology, integrated water resources management, environmental sustainability challenges of water policies. The other cluster is the introduction to water governance and conflict management, analyzes the basic features of institutions, politics, economics, water governance, and discusses the general theories of conflict management, communication, and how to overcome it. There is a water law cluster, especially focusing on the regulation on water internationally, nationally, and mainly in European level, because we are in the European Union, but it can be transferred to other regions as well. There is the international water governance, focuses on theoretical, political, and institutional questions of water governance. It also provides an introduction to water project management from an international perspective. And especially there is a water diplomacy and international conflict management, and are dedicated to the prevention and resolution of water-related interstate conflicts and disputes. I also proudly announce, because it was just signed for the World Water Day by our university and UNESCO. So from now, we are hosting a UNESCO chair for water conflict management. And he is András Szőlősi Nagy, whose name is not unknown, I think, in front of many of you. And he is one of the authors of the Matter of Survival as well. We all are benefiting from his scientific and international advocacy, knowledge, and experiences, and looking forward to supporting him in this position to work on water for peace issues worldwide, focusing on the country's people and communities who are suffering from water crisis. Thirdly, the Faculty of the Water Sciences, together with the University of Belgrade, developed in an international cooperation, inviting 7 countries along the Danube, an international postgraduate course of flood management. As Danube is the largest river in Europe and the most international river worldwide, running through 10 countries, and the catchment area includes additionally 7 more countries. The floods are the major issues along the Danube. Several ones during the last decade were very huge. And the course covers many aspects of the rivers regarding floods, modeling, forecasting, risk management, legal and policy framework, protection in urban settings, and communication to climate change, the connection to climate change and the environmental issues. And finally, I would like to mention that the university hosts the National In-Service Training Institute that develops and provides professional updating training for public officers at the governmental and the local authority level as well. And several of them is about sustainability, covering different aspects, how to build it into the daily work and the decision making. And with the support of the Faculty of Water Sciences, we are to develop the sustainability leadership course with strong focus on water management, nationally, locally, and internationally as well. So at the university, we are pleased and feel the responsibility to be part of the Global Water Academy and look forward to working with the partners, the Secretariat, to contribute to meeting the capacity building needs and the requirements of the UN Water Congress that was held last year, a year ago. Thank you so much.
Thanks to you, Dr. Katalin. And at this point in time, and before we go to the next speaker, I would like to also honor in absentia the President of the 77th General Assembly of the United Nations, Ambassador Korosi, who is in all truth the inspiration behind this Global Water Academy. It is because of Ambassador Korosi, when he was the current PGA last year, that UNITAR came to be tasked with this mandate that then York University and President Lenton welcomed. So he has highly recommended that we work with Ludovica University of Public Service, and we thank him for that as well. With that, last but not least, I would like to offer the floor to Professor Ebru Kanansokulu of Istanbul, who is the director of one of the 31 training centers that UNITAR has around the world, but most important than that is the Dean of the School of Social Sciences and Politics at BAU, Bashar Rashid University, the prestigious university located in Istanbul. She is also the director of the UN Rotary, of the Rotary International Peace Center, which is very close to the UN, but it's not a UN Peace Center. So with that, it is a great pleasure to welcome Professor Ebru Kanansokulu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mejia. I'd like to thank to the organizers for this very timely event, and I'm very excited to be here and a part of this panel. I'm coming from Istanbul, and if I may just recall your attention to where Turkey is located. Turkey is a country which is actually surrounded by sea, if not surrounded by conflict zones. And since the very foundation of the country, the motto is peace at home, peace in the world. So this sets the greatest challenge for Turkish government and Turkish citizens, the people living in Turkey, people living across Turkey. Well, Istanbul and Çanakkale are the two cities that actually, the straits, there are two straits that are protected and regulated by the Montreux Strait regime. And Turkey has the largest border with the Black Sea in the region. Turkey is neighboring Greece through the Aegean Sea, and Turkey is a Mediterranean country. So Turkey is actually surrounded by sea. It is home to major rivers. It's an upstream country for the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, which is the livelihood of the Mesopotamian region since the very beginning of humanity. And it also neighbors through Greece and Bulgaria through the Maritsa River. So water has been actually in the livelihood not only of Turkey, but for centuries, thousands of years, for all the civilizations that had been established in Turkey. Of course, water is a source of life as well as source of death. So I'm a political scientist, and when I teach, and particularly majoring in security studies, when I teach security to my students, I always recall that the humanity and the history of civilization is created across the water and the river basins. So, And if you go back to the creation of the written law, I think one of the oldest documents belong to Hugo Grotius, who wrote on 1604, if I'm not mistaken, Mare Liberum, our sea. There is a lot of context how water is essential for our lives, for the systems that we create and the systems that we destroy. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to briefly, and being the last speaker of the day, which was a very inspiring day for us, we heard a lot about the relevance and importance and vitality of water. I'd like to give you a couple of insights from Turkey and the region that Turkey is located with its neighborhood, and how water-related issues are a source of conflict and peace, and the Turkish contribution to peace in the region through the river and sea regimes. But of course, there are a lot of challenges as well that the country is facing with. For over 7 decades, Turkey has been, during the Cold War, starting with the Cold War, Turkey has been an important country in the region for being an ally of the Western Bloc, but always balancing the Eastern Bloc's interests and security priorities as well. It serves as a peace provider. This is one of the mottos of subsequent Turkish governments in the region. And when it comes to the sharing of and the use of and governance of water within the neighborhood, I would like to say that it has succeeded in many instances where there were the crises. Of course, it is a country which is actually challenged by a lot of internal and external pressures. I'm not going to go back too far in the history, but just going through the last 3 decades right after the end of the Cold War, Turkey's eastern neighborhood has been the basin for unfortunate civil wars, crises, transborder conflicts, and wars. And Turkey is a country which has received millions of refugees throughout these decades. Most of them have remained in Turkey and established and even got Turkish citizenships. And another internal tension that Turkey experiences when it comes to water governance is the disasters. Recently, last year, actually almost a year ago, we had a devastating earthquake, and the official statistics say that there are almost 51,000 people who lost their lives. Needless to state, the forced people actually losing their lives or houses or relatives and so forth and so on, who had to immigrate to other cities in the country. And one of the first, of course, basic needs at such a large-scale disaster was water, sanitation, and hygiene. And this has been the priority before building or, building the cities or the infrastructure. The Turkish government, together with international partners, together with the civil society actors and various different agencies, urged to provide the sanitation, water, and hygiene. To avoid the arrival of cholera or other infectious diseases. So, talking about water and its relevance for peace is not a very distant issue for Turkish people, for various crises and challenges. And of course, it is a huge country with 83 million people living in Turkey, and only 1/5 of the entire water resources is used for our daily needs. It's an agricultural country with a very big land, and due to the climate change and all these related issues of the global warming, we receive less and less water across the country. Even the most green areas of the Black Sea region, which on the daily basis was supposed to rain every day. I'm coming from Istanbul, which is a city of 17 million people, and it rained only 1 week this year, and no snow. And 17 million people is almost larger than many European countries. And we are having the upcoming elections, and one of the number one issues during the electoral campaign is first potential resources for water, and second, earthquake. Right? And so we are facing with a lot of internal challenges when it comes to the water governance. We are lucky in the sense that Turkey is also holds a population which is primarily very young, and I proudly say that young people, younger generations, are much more aware of the importance of water rather than my generations. When I was at university, I think it was like there was this famous Kevin Costner movie, Water World. I don't know if you might remember. I see many young people here in this room.
I remember.
That was a dystopic movie, and we were like, oh, what an imagination. We're either going towards that direction or to the complete opposite. And of course, if we come back to the recent history, before the war in Syria started in 2011, a year before the war, there was a super tough drought in the country, which made thousands of Syrians from the rural areas obliged to move to Damascus and big cities. And these are the climate refugees. And it's not peculiar to Syria or the Middle East, which Turkey is neighboring. But when we start talking about the climate refugees, we unfortunately have to keep in mind that it comes together with a package of economic problems, urban problems, and so forth and so on. So this is in the heart of security and human development. When we teach security, which is the other way to talk about peace in international security studies, we concentrate on three questions. What is the threat? What is threatening? And what is the instruments of threat? So here, if I may put in other words, which has nothing to do with Turkey, the case of Turkey, but for those of you who study methodology at some point of your studies, if water and peace is a dependent variable or an independent variable, which causes the other? Whether the absence of peace causes the destruction of water resources, or whether the absence of water causes wars and conflicts. And we don't need to go that far when we think about conflict, because conflict is in our neighborhood, is in our street. There are a lot of statistics. Mr. Mejia has shown us at the beginning of this panel some statistics from around the world. We are very carelessly consuming water. And it is not something about Europe or the developed part of the world. It's actually a common problem. And I'm really glad that leveraging peace for water is the theme, leveraging water for peace is a theme, because without water we cannot survive. So no need to go for disasters or a specific country. This is obviously, we need to create more awareness, and we need advocacy. And I'm again very optimistic about the younger generation's advocacy about consuming responsibly compared to our generations. And I'm coming from a university as well, and I'm very proud to say that we also, and I'm glad that my colleagues here online and physically in this room, academia is working very meticulously on water. Through research, through publications, through dissemination, and this is a part of our responsibility. And as Sipal Istanbul Center, I would like to reiterate our commitment to creating awareness and attitude change when it comes to the use of water responsibly and consuming it to the younger generations, to the older generations, aging populations. And once again, without further ado, I want to thank you, Mr. Mejia, UNITAR, and York University for having us here. Thank you very much.
We thank Professor Ebru Kanansokulu for coming all the way from Istanbul to share not only the perspective from Turkey, but also, very important, this deep question that she has presented on the interlinkages between water peace and water. What is it that starts instability? So with this, we have concluded this very illustrious panel. And I thank everyone for taking the floor to share your remarks and your perspective. And to conclude this event, I would like to offer the floor to Dr. Amir Asif, Vice President of Research and Innovation of York University, to give us the final remarks. But before I do so, dear Amir, if I may, and in the presence of President Lenton, I would like to express publicly the appreciation and gratitude of UNITAR for making this possible. This Global Water Academy wouldn't happen without you and your team. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Thank you, Excellencies, distinguished guests and colleagues for your participation today. Bon après-midi, Mesdames et Messieurs. It is an honor to be here all the way from Toronto, Canada, on behalf of York University, alongside President Fronta Lenton, as we mark World Water Day and the one-year anniversary of the UNITAR Global Water Academy. I've been asked to provide the closing remarks. The key message we heard today is the need to take prompt action on a number of important areas related to water. The ones I would like to highlight are, number one, need for scientific and engineering solutions like artificial intelligence for solving water-related issues. Number two, optimizing the interlink between water and energy. Number three, importance of clean water supply on global health. Number four, threat on global peace ranging from food scarcity to public health. Number five, need for transboundary water cooperation. Number six, synergize the knowledge and efforts of our youth who are quite knowledgeable and anxious to contribute to this noble cause. As today's discussion made clear, water holds the power to bring us together. It unites us. Water is also a lifeblood on the planet in a world sadly marked by global conflicts today. However, despite the many divisions we see in the world today, I agree with the panel that leveraging water for peace is indeed very much possible. Water is a single entity with the potential to unify countries and work towards a common goal. To accomplish this, and as elaborated in the panel discussion today, we require a bold international approach. One that enhances diplomacy, capacity building, and collaboration, working across cultures and beyond geographical boundaries. An international approach led by none other than United Nations and UNITAR in collaboration with leading research, training, regulatory, governmental, and industrial organizations from across the world. The panel focused on equipping the global community with the right skills and tools to turn policy into practice. It means turning innovative ideas into collective action to create a safer, more equitable, and more sustainable world. The UNITAR Global Water Academy offers us the opportunity to make real strides towards such a future where water is well-governed, free from conflict, and accessible to everyone. Since its inception a year ago today, the Water Academy has been very busy developing the necessary education and training materials to advance SDG 6.0. As previously mentioned, the Academy is soon preparing to unveil a flagship course on access to clean water and sanitation, a course that will be free and open to people around the world, including your friends, colleagues. And this summer, several mini courses on water security will also make their debut, inviting the global community into a global classroom with the goal to improve water management practices and to help address issues of inequity worldwide. This educational platform for online, offline, and immersive learning is a result of the hard work and dedication of many, including York's leading water researchers like Professor Sharma and York students, whose expertise and energy have been instrumental in launching the Academy. And that has been acknowledged by the previous speakers today, but I wanted to highlight that once more. These efforts by our community of change makers has been on full display at a series of Academy events over the last year, exploring topics like how to harness big data and new technologies to address water insecurity, to how extreme water events brought on by climate change impact water quality and quantity. Held in places like the high-level political forum on sustainable development last summer, to the SDG Summit in September, to today here in Geneva, or on Sunday for a full-day exhibition at the Aga Khan Museum in Toronto, Canada, exploring traditional, indigenous and Muslim relationships with water, these events have challenged our audiences to rethink how water is managed and used, as well as promoting knowledge transfer and relationship building. The Academy has and continues to facilitate valuable conversations on water to better understand the issues that confront us and to chart a path for the international community to move forward together and fully respond to the call on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Before closing, I would like to thank the United Nations here in Geneva for hosting today's exceptional event, as well as our many partners, especially UNITAR. I want to recognize and thank all the panelists we heard from during this session. I invite all of you and the nations you represent to join York University and the UNITAR Global Water Academy on our mission to fight the global water crisis. Visit the Water Academy's newly launched website to learn more about ways to get involved, enroll in our upcoming courses, or partner with us. With your help and support, we can work to meet the targets and ensure everyone has universal access to clean water in both peace and safety. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
We thank Dr. Asif, we thank all of the panelists, and particularly we thank all of you connected participants from more than 20 countries, several diplomatic missions, permanent missions in Geneva on a Friday afternoon, also represented here. Kudos to you. And with that, we invite you again to join this global effort. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.